It's time to learn about the furries. I feel like I see them more and more, and it's no longer enough to ignore them. I have to understand them. POV, you're being abducted. True. What I found curious was, one, how common it is for furries to talk about coming out. How common it is for them to say that, like, being a furry is part of who they are inside. While simultaneously it's quite common for furries to suggest, no, this is not part of who you are. Don't come out. Don't say you're coming out. That's weird and creepy. So there's some sort of schism. I figured we'd watch two videos. We'd watch one about how to come out and tell your friends you're a furry, and one about why you shouldn't do that. Take the quiz first. I probably should. This is the only way for this to make more sense. Right. Before we learn about how to come out as a furry, I have to figure out what kind of furry I am. It's only logical. I wouldn't be a normal one, so which unique fursona should I have? We've got a BuzzFeed quiz, a classic. Updated March 19th. Damn. I feel like a sloth I can connect with more right now, because I'm tired as hell all the time. I'm old. Alright, sloth, or as weird people say, a sloth. How would your friends describe me? But I don't have friends. But I did eat breakfast this morning. We have two people call me Shady. You're not my friends, but we'll go with Shady. Favorite social media platform? I hate them all, but the one I probably get the most enjoyment out of would be Twitter. I have only seen a couple episodes of Black Mirror, and I have seen nothing of any of the other ones. Don't even know that this exists. Pick a name for your fursona. This is the kind of stuff that should be the output of a quiz. This shouldn't be something you just pick. Nugget. And whenever I watch Dancing Bacons eat food in Thailand, it is either the most horrifying food poison inducing gutter trash I've seen in my life, or it's something that clearly costs an insane amount of money. Like, they got a Coke Zero on a cruise, and they were charged like $15 or some crap. Thailand's out, I'd die. Pick your favorite food. Pizza? No. Sandwich? No. None of these are a favorite. Lobster rolls annoy me, because I feel like it's a wasted lobster. Because, look, lobster is expensive, and my preferred form of lobster is just straight up. If I was immensely wealthy and I could eat lobster all the time, then I might consider having it in a sandwich or something, but... Let's go ramen. I do have ramen merch, it's true. Apple pie? Not with ice cream, but with like a slice of cheese. Apple pie with a slice of cheddar cheese. We got armadillo. You're awkward and goofy, but everyone loves you for it. She let me hit because I'm goofy. It's a pretty bold animal, true. It's hairy in all the places I'm hairy. We've determined that if I were a furry, I would be an armadillo. I'm sure that's very important knowledge, so we're going to learn. Should I, as a furry armadillo, need to come out to my friends? This, ladies and gents, is how I would do it.
Hello. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Fluke the Husky. A lot of people have been asking me this question, and
all that, I presume all that money, I presume a suit like that is not cheap, all of that, and then the crown is inflatable? If you're going to have a trash crown, have a Burger King crown. Have a good crown, or have a Burger King crown. Don't have some inflatable thing, okay?
I would just like to take the time to maybe give you a little bit of comfort and give you a little bit of reassurance that maybe right now is a good time to tell them, or maybe it's okay to wait a little bit longer. So whenever someone asks me this question...
This is like advice on letting people know you have a terminal illness. I just want to reassure you that you're going to get supported. You don't have to hide this. You don't have to hide this. Or like if you have a severe mental illness... Oh wait, we're talking about being a furry. Anyway, like... Oh god, why did you send me this? Wait, babe, you ordered this? Lucky Bee ordered me a fursuit. It's being handmade by children in Tahiti. We're going to FurCon. We're going to FurCon. Hey! Hey, my totally normal hobby requires videos to encourage me and reassure me that I need to tell everyone around me that I'm one of these things. Normal. Very normal.
I always tell them that the way that your parents would react is not going to be the same as how my parents or my friends would react. I guess the more straightforward way of doing it is saying, can I talk to you about something that's been kind of like heavy on my mind lately? So I think if someone were to say,
you tell your friend or your parent that you need to talk to them about something that's heavy on your mind, and then you tell them you like dressing up as like an armadillo. I don't see that not being insanely weird.
Say that to me, I would, lower my walls and be like, oh, well, yeah, they're wanting to open up to me. Of course, I'll say okay. You could like show them some art that you really like, or like
don't. You could send your grandma a link to your Fur Affinity account.
Show them your friend that happens to be a furry, and maybe that will spur the subject of, oh, what is that? Is that like a costume? Maybe
send your grandma furry cub porn. Just send your grandma a link to the Discord you roleplay in. Send it to your like 9/11 cub furry roleplay Discord.
You want to set an atmosphere of being calm and being collected. So that's why I'm kind of speaking in these steps of like, you want to have good setting. You want to make.
This is more incredible than I thought it would be. The insight into the furry psychology. The preparation that goes into telling someone they are what they are, or like what they like. This is like, seems to be like beyond coming out as gay or trans or something. This is like beyond that.
Sure everybody's comfortable, and then you want to eventually tell them that maybe your friends are into this specific thing. In that way,
just groom your parents into acceptance of this weird thing.
Let them kind of piece together the pieces, People are pretty smart at figuring things out. So, yeah.
But like, why do you need to tell them in this manner? Why is it such a big deal? And it's like, yeah, well, people who know about furries have a good chance of having a negative opinion of them, but only because they engage with this shit like this.
I want to speak to you as if I'm your best friend talking to you, just trying to give you advice, because that's how I would like to receive advice myself. So I guess my best advice for coming out.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
You're a furry or you're LGBT or gay, is just make sure everybody is comfortable and that it is a good setting. And then you can start leaning towards that.
So he goes out of his way to make them seem like things you would similarly come out as. What was that white text? That was just highlighting a misspeak. Because he said LGBT or gay, when obviously it's contained within LG.
You like this specific thing, like you like furry art, or you have a friend that he's a boy and...
Like, what else would they list you need to come out as? Or it makes sense to come out as? Lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, or furry. What else? Is it proper LGBTF?
He's fallen in love with another boy and you think that that's okay. It's really for you to decide, if your parents are going to be okay or if they're not going to be okay with
it. Coming out as a crypto investor. That's different. That's like admitting to a crime, or like, that's letting people know that you have have some sort of mental disability.
If you know they're not going to be okay.
I guess depending on what you've invested in. How to tell your parents you invested your life savings, you invested your college funds into Harmcoin, hot new cryptocurrency from 100-view Twitch streamer.
But if like you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and it's just like wearing on you and you need to tell them.
What is this scenario where you're super into furry stuff and you have a boyfriend or girlfriend and they don't know? This makes furry stuff sound real weird, dude. Even if I didn't know about the weird parts of it, how do you get into a position where where something is the kind of thing you'd be really into but wouldn't let your boyfriend or girlfriend know? What are the kind of things like that? The things that are like, you like to eat human shit. Or something like that. You're putting furry into that same sort of bucket, dude.
Then I guess you don't really have a choice. And that's where these steps come into play, where at least put yourself in a place that it's okay to share your feelings and share your thoughts and be genuine. I want to tell you guys a story of how I came out to one of my old coworkers that I was a furry.
Coming out to coworkers now. Coming out to it sounds less like coming out and more like evangelizing if you're doing it to like a coworker and it's about dressing up in animal suits and stuff. Also, the strategy discussion makes it sound more like evangelism than coming out.
It was kind of late. It was pretty late in the game, okay? I kind of suck at this, at just telling people that I'm a furry or that I'm gay. It's easier with me being gay because I have a boyfriend, but with being furry, it's different, okay? She was climbing with me. This is like the third or fourth time that we...
Yeah, I'm not surprised coming out as being a furry is harder than coming out as being gay. I'm not surprised.
Actually, I stopped job searching as a software engineer and I wanted to get into full-time YouTubing. So I just told her, I was like, well, I'm a furry. You know that, right? And
sounds like a really good way to get doxxed. That is why I don't talk to people in real life about YouTube. Even accidentally. Because let's say they show up at your stream or appear on your YouTube and then they just mention having seen you or met you. And they don't hide exactly where they're from. Things like that.
So she kind of like put the pieces together and she was kind of like, yeah, I'm surprised that you haven't told me earlier. And I was like, well, yeah, I kind of just wanted you to figure it out for yourself.
How significant a part of who you are is this? Why would this coworker be like, I'm surprised you didn't tell me earlier? Maybe she's used to furries being really annoying. Maybe that's what she means. Not like, I can't believe you didn't tell me. Chinese Star, you're saying it's a hobby. No, it isn't. For some people it is. For some people it's an identity. We're going to see the flip side of this video next, by the way. And if there are many people on the flip side of this, so this guy's treating it like an aspect of who he is, like being attracted to men or whatever. Putting it right alongside being gay or whatever. Other furries do not like it when people do that.
If you don't feel ready, just don't do it. But if you do feel ready and you want them to accept you and you want to be open about everything, I think it's a really important step to take in your life. Now, I feel like
telling people you're a furry is a really important step to take in your life. That's so weird. Telling people you play League of Legends is a really important step to take in your life. Well, I mean, it's only fair to people you meet if you're a League of Legends player that they know you're a League of Legends player so they can choose to absolutely ostracize you. They should have that chance to abandon you. But, you know, you can think of many other examples where it would be weird.
I'm speaking to this as if it's like a super serious thing. I know a lot of people will say it's not that serious. But honestly, to me, it's pretty serious, okay? It's pretty serious to come out to people that, you know, this is your identity and you don't want them to judge. So for the people in that boat.
Yeah, not only is it like they consider it their identity, he literally says, this is your identity. Okay.
Who are taking this like pretty seriously, this video is for you. If you don't take it very seriously and, you know, you already came out to your family, you already came out to your friends, good on you. I hope that you had a good experience. If you didn't have a good experience, it's fine. You're still alive. And I want to close with saying that no matter the outcome, you're not going to die, okay?
I don't know about that. Depends what people know about furries. Hey, if you tell someone you babysit for that you're a furry, you might die. Depending on the what parts of furrydom they're familiar with.
And if you say that there's no support network, literally just go down to the comments. There are people out there that are always willing to empathize for you. You just have to reach out. So I hope this
You need to find a new fur family online from my subscriber base.
Video is helpful. And I wish you the best of intentions and the best of luck in your
Tom, what's a husky? I presume it literally means a dog.
Coming out. Do not be afraid. It's dangerous out there. Take this. Do you need brushies? Let me brush you. There. Now you're all brushed.
He has a not safe for work channel called Red Rocket. Anyway, we were asked to use the comments to find support and to talk about our experiences. We're going to take a peep at the comments and then we're going to check out the flip side. We're going to see a furry say, do not come out as a furry. I was always an artist, drawing animals and people to drawing anthro dogs and wolves, showing my parents who didn't know what a furry was, but soon I admitted was a furry, and explained that culture and talent in the fandom, showing the bright sides rather than negatives. My other relatives didn't support it besides my aunt. Why is being into like humanoid animals something your extended family would ever be in a position to fucking weigh in on? I did the whole lunch thing with my mom. She's always been pretty open-minded, thankfully. We had a few drinks, and I brought it up that I was bi, had a boyfriend, and was a furry too. That's manslaughter. When she inevitably crushes some pills and has them with a bottle of wine, I think this guy's on the hook for that one. Sailor Benny says, I came out to my mother first and she respected it. The furry part? Just the furry part? As well as supported it. I then made the mistake of telling my little brother, who was at the time very manipulative and conniving, and he tried to use it as leverage against me by threatening to tell my dad. I told my dad myself and have been struggling to keep our relationship there ever since. Guys, I told my dad I'm a furry and he won't fuck me anymore. Help. Oh God. I like this comment. I told my parents I'm furry at 16 because I wanted to go to Anthrocon. They thought it was weird as fuck, but they still let me go. Probably hoping you'd get abducted at that point. My coworkers didn't have a choice. I turned up to work one day in my fursuit. I drove a forklift in suit. Is that safe? When Islam takes over, the furries will have the same legal rights as animals? Well, that's true progress, right? I think, look, I'm a progressive. I think people should be treated as if they are what they identify as. Therefore, furries should be legal game, right? You should be allowed to hunt them. Okay, Easy9566 has great strategy. Honestly, it's the easiest if you let others discover the idea with you, but most people don't have the time for that. I just spammed furry and gay memes in my friend channel, and at some point they didn't care anymore and I just said it. Though recently, I thought about being pan, since I honestly don't bother about gender. The most important thing in interaction isn't the information you deliver, but your interaction. What in the hell am I reading? If you are approachable, people will approach. If you think others will attack. Any answer from them, you can't immediately understand seems like a thread, and then it just happens. Too long, didn't read, just say it. It feels so good to have accepting straight non-furries sending memes. Not a sentence that should ever exist. Yo! This is incredible. This is fascinating. So what I'm interested in all of this really is this split between the furries who are like, this is part of my soul. Like when people are like, my gender identity is part of my soul and who I am. I'm a tranoid. Furries do the same, but there's much more of a split. There are furries who are like, this is part of who I am, and there are furries who are like, this isn't part of who I am. It's just something I'm interested in. Read this. A month ago, when I told my family about my interest in furries, they did accept that, which was cool. Though my mom proved that I don't actually identify as a furry, but just see myself as part of the fandom. I'm still thinking about what she said. The contemporary understanding of identity and the need to be things. The need for everything you do to indicate an element of your inner self and identity is very, very, very strange and disgusting to me. Based mom cutting through the consumption as identity? Indeed. And obviously on this channel we most often see it in the form of, I am this identity, therefore the things I do need to reflect that and align with that. I can't play this game. It doesn't represent my identity. And if I played that game, it wouldn't align with who I am, blah, 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 so I can't. Weird. Really, 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 really weird. I like humanoid animals and dressing up. This means something about who I am at a base level. What is this? What is this comment? This is like this is the flip side of that one we just read. Seabay says, I didn't have to come out. My parents basically knew already. They asked me questions about it many times. I just had to find out for myself since I was in denial. So for some of them, it's on the level of it's something you are and then later find out you are. Do they mean like you're born furry? That's an adult. I was expecting like a teen, maybe oldest, like 21.
Hey guys! Yo, what's kicking everybody? It's your boy C Daddy Real.
The US gives every black person $5,000 as reparation, and then suddenly there are just people in fursuits everywhere.
It's been a long journey, but in case you didn't know,
you have the TV on in the background. What are you doing? Do you guys have your ears fortified? Are your ears prepared for cancer? Are you ready to suffer? Why you shouldn't come out as a furry. So to contrast with that video and the comments on that video, or most of the comments on that video about coming out and how it's so important to share this part of your identity, here is a furry YouTuber with 164,000 subscribers who 5 years ago made a video covering why you shouldn't, quote unquote, come out.
To start off, I feel like I should say coming out is a very serious thing. I've seen many videos go around of people coming out as furries to their parents or friends.
Very serious thing?
I'm going to tell you why that isn't necessary. Hello everyone, I'm Solar Sea.
Well, it isn't necessary, let's go. I would, hey, look, if you don't understand what it's like for someone to come out as gay to their parents who might not be accepting, imagine if you were born to a San Franciscan family and you had to come out as straight.
And today we'll be going over why you shouldn't come out as a furry. What exactly is coming out? Well, when someone feels brave enough to publicly state that they are a sexuality other than heterosexual or...
Why are these flags melting? This is the most aesthetically horrendous video I've seen in my life. Isn't that top right just ice cream?
Sexual, or a gender other than cisgender, that is considered coming out. Can you see where I'm going with this?
Furry doesn't fall under those categories, is where you're going with this, but I think you need to go deeper to say why it's absurd. You're going to have to directly go against the furries who claim it is a part of their identity that belongs with those.
Being a furry is neither a sexuality nor a gender identity. Yes, a small percentage of furries are into the sexual side of the fandom.
Okay, so maybe 1 or 2% of furries are weird fucking freaks who are into animal sex, but you know. In that case... Okay. Oh, wait, should they then come out? Why do? You have to cover why is there coming out for people who are demented or gay? Why is coming out a thing for them? You can't just say, oh, being a furry doesn't fall into those categories, so you don't come out for it. Well, why do you come out for those categories? The why you come out when you're those is what has to not apply to furry.
But most are not. So furry isn't a sexuality.
So you're telling me, wait, furry isn't a sexuality because most of people who are furries aren't into furry sex stuff? Are you telling me that if most furries were, then you would consider being a furry to be a sexuality? Because that's what's implied there. If you're saying only a minority are into it for sex stuff, therefore it's not a sexuality, you're implying that if a majority were, which I think they are, you'd count it as a sexuality?
People who stay in the closet, which means they haven't told anyone of their sexuality or gender identity.
Okay, if you're talking about being in the closet, furries have a similar behavior, right? They hide it.
Are at risk for higher stress levels and even depression. Why is this? Well, a person in the closet would be unable to date someone publicly or even express their crushes in fear of being outed. This is very disheartening, especially when others around them seem to have perfect love lives.
You can totally parallel this with being a furry, though. You can parallel it, though. You can say they fear letting people know about their hobby. They have to hide it, whereas they see everyone else going around, like, sharing their hobbies.
Non-cisgender people in the closet may be constantly misgendered, which can cause a feeling of not belonging and insecurity. Furries do not experience these struggles. It's literally against the law to be part of the LGBT plus community in some countries.
Yeah, but we still have people coming out or being in the closet in countries where it's not against the law, so that's irrelevant. That's utterly irrelevant. Tenshi says they are making the worst case for a valid point. Yeah, this should be the easiest slam dunk in the entire world, but this person's fumbling it. You could even say, a furry in the closet faces other kinds of issues that will impact their mental health, such as, when people around them don't know they're a furry, they might say horrible things about furries when they wouldn't if they knew that person was a furry. Right? They might have to hear someone saying all furries are zoophilic pedosadists or something.
And being a furry isn't illegal, trust me. Furries do have negative experiences from people not understanding the fandom, but trust me, it is not the same as being ridiculed for your sexuality or gender identity.
I think more people wish death upon furries than wish death upon gay people. In, say, the UK and or the US.
The thing about being a furry, too, is that being a furry is a choice. Sexuality and
controversial nowadays, isn't it?
Gender are not choices.
I feel like nowadays being a furry is considered less of a choice than being transgender, right? Nowadays, legally being transgender is a choice. It is in the UK, right? Because the standard is that gets fought over and goes back and forth. Anywhere that accepts self-identification, being transgender is a choice. Because I could choose to be recognized as transgender by just saying I'm a woman. It wouldn't actually have to be any quality of me, physically, psychologically, whatever. I could just say, I am this. I could choose to be trans if I wanted to.
I know some of you are thinking, well, I didn't choose to be interested in anthro animals. And you're right. Your interests aren't choices. So yes, you didn't choose to find fursuits cute. You didn't choose to be interested in animals with human characteristics. But you did choose to be a furry.
There's another F word you can put in place of that to make the same argument people make about gay people all the time. Is this person aware of the idea of things like, hate the sin, love the sinner? You didn't choose to be attracted to men, but you did choose to be a...
Anyone can leave the furry fandom at any time. No one is keeping you here. There are tons of people who draw furry art or express interest in furry-related things, but choose not to be furries.
Ah! So you're saying it's an identity! What is this? You're making it more like being trans or gay than anyone I've ever heard argue against. The people who argue it's an identity don't argue it's an identity this strongly. This is the most extreme argument that it is an identity and part of who you are that I've ever heard. I've never heard anyone argue it to this extreme. You think she means going to cons and shit? This isn't what's said here. Katsun looks like a furry but chooses not to be one, so she isn't one.
Interest in furry-related things, but choose not to be furries. You coming out to your parents as a furry would be like someone coming out to their parents as an anime cosplayer. Being a furry is a hobby. It's just a very weird hobby. You wouldn't come out as a Homestuck fan or whatever, so why would you come out as a furry?
Sure, there you go. Should have just said this. Should have just said this.
They're both just fandoms. I understand that furries can experience physical harm from others just for being furries.
This directly goes against the thrust of the point you were making earlier about the consequences you face. What are you doing?
Someone might...
To be fair to this point, didn't the furries literally get gassed once at a con? Didn't they get chlorine gassed?
For their sexuality or gender identity. I'm not saying that we furries don't have our struggles, because we definitely do. I'm just saying that
we furries have our struggles, but it's not an identity. It's just, being a fan of something. Come on.
Coming out as a furry is not necessary, and definitely not the right terminology to use. If someone asks if you're a furry, and you don't want them to know, just say no. You don't owe them an explanation. And denying your furriness to someone doesn't have nearly as much emotional damage as denying your sexuality or gender identity to someone.
You're arguing it's different because of the degree of damage when you say no if someone asks you if you're a furry. That's highly subjective. This is going to blow your mind. There are lots of really mentally ill furries who probably are utterly devastated if they have to deny that they're a furry. Far more than the average gay person is living in the closet. I guarantee you. Don't use that as a standard, because people are crazy. People are insane.
I never came out to my parents as a furry. I just mentioned that there was a furry convention nearby that I wanted to go to. They asked me what a furry was, and I explained that they were people who like to dress up in cute animal costumes and are very enthusiastic about animals.
Right, this would be considered by the furries who say you should come out as a furry. This would be considered to be coming out, right? This is even a recommended strategy. I never came out as gay to my parents. I just brought my boyfriend home for dinner and started, like, eating his asshole on the dinner table.
I compared it to Dragon Con, which helped them understand it more. So, now they know I'm interested.
What the hell is Dragon Con? I think even having a video about why you shouldn't come out as a furry is in itself demented. I think the best strategy is to just not acknowledge that this is a thing at all.
People think people who go to anime conventions are weird, so of course they're gonna think furries are weird. Once again, coming out isn't the right terminology to use if you want someone to know you're a furry. I mean, if you really have to...
So this is primarily... So there was an element of you don't have to do that kind of behavior because it's just a hobby and people will find out about it or they won't. But ultimately, this is just like a tone police on don't call it coming out. Come on.
To let someone know you're a furry for some reason, just tell them, I guess. I wouldn't bring it up out of nowhere, because that's pretty weird. Just let it naturally come up. If you're doing something fur-related, such as drawing an anthro character in your sketchbook, and your
if you're doing something like drawing a massive horse cock that shoots lasers, and your parents see it,
parents or
just tell them you're gay. It's less embarrassing.
Friends ask what it is, just tell them if you're comfortable doing that. That way they know, and you didn't have to make a big deal out of it. Basically, to recap, you shouldn't come out as a furry because coming out refers to sexuality and...
Again, this is weird. If they see you drawing an anthropomorphic animal, just tell them, unless you're uncomfortable telling them. That saying that is a thing that you're doing makes it sound incredibly weird. Oh, if someone sees you drawing a mech and they ask about it, just tell them you're into mechs. Unless you're not comfortable doing that. Okay. One day my parents were giving my brother and I about how furries were disgusting zoophiles while I was one. I told them a couple days later about my interests and how it made me a furry, and they seemed to understand. The next day they gave me a Bible. Edit. Oh boy, has it been a journey. It wasn't just that they were giving me a Bible. They were trying to make join a whole damn cult. One of their punishments was taking away my phone for almost a whole damn year. Just for being different. I'm glad to say I have broken free and have recently finished making my first fursuit. Oh my god. What the f... Okay, we've got another video to watch. I don't know if I have time for these comments. There was a video in the recommended column. It's by someone called Shi Okami, and it's called Dear Young Furries, My Advice to You. If I have to say one thing, it's that I like Pusheen.
Why would you want to constrict yourself with the social norm when you could be a brightly colored dog or a badass dragon?
Is that a dog whistle? Why specifically badass dragon? Come on.
You don't need a $10,000 fursuit.
Oh, is this just you can be a furry even if you're poor?
To feel like you matter in this fandom. With some of the bigger furry YouTubers out there, it can feel like you need a cute suit, a cute voice, and a camera, and you're golden.
But just look at me!
But that's not true. Look at Ascari Husky, or Blue the Dragon, Cothrix, Genesius, and
Why do I recognize that second from the right? Something just popped into my brain. This video is a guide to young furries on how to engage with furriness. Example number 3 is Cothrix the dragon. Years ago, Cothrix had a little bit of a controversy. They uploaded a video called In Defense of Pedophile.
My YouTube channel had been steadily growing as I put out a video week after week. Of course, much of that growth had to do with the fact that I didn't shy away from controversial topics like porn and even weirder porn. My goal was one video a week, even at the cost of quality. I thought as long as I had clickbait enough titles and thumbnails, it would get attention anyway.
You're correct. Wait, don't tell me, no, don't set this up to be like, damn. I got so click poisoned that I had to...
So in January of 2017, I decided to talk about pedophiles. The idea sparked after seeing people constantly accusing each other of being pedophiles on Twitter. Just an accusation that someone had impure thoughts seemed to be enough for them to be considered guilty of some crime and shunned by society.
I've never seen, like, Poop Dick 69 get called a pedophile and then people consider that account to be a pedo.
Or at least by Twitter. And I thought, hey, that's pretty fucked up. I don't want to live in a dystopian future where your worth is decided by what thoughts you're accused of having. So what did I name my new video? In Defense of Pedophiles.
Oh.
Genius. As one might expect, it didn't go over so well. Before long, meme after meme emerged, mocking me in the video.
Yeah.
People accused me of being a pedophile, sent me death threats, doxed me, and I even earned my own
Enemy of the state at mailtotor.com. At any time. Anywhere. And in the blink of a fucking eye. My men end you. Have a nice day.
doxed me, and I even earned my own Encyclopedia Dramatica page. So what terrible things did I say in this video? Well, I had been afraid to rewatch it for some time. I knew that I'd be embarrassed by it. I knew that
You'd been afraid to rewatch it? You made it.
That something I said must have been so offensive and inappropriate that I could never live it down. And when I finally rewatched the video, I was utterly amazed at just how tame it actually was. So let's go through it, shall we? The video starts by me explaining why it's difficult to talk about the specific topic. If you make any kind of comment that sounds remotely like you don't absolutely...
Why did you recommend that I watch a video of someone reacting to their own video? Why did you do this?
Absolutely despise pedophiles, then everyone's knee-jerk reaction is to call you a pedophile by association. So you have to preface every single sentence with, I don't find kids attractive, and I don't support pedophiles, just so people will listen to you.
No, I guarantee you're gonna get called... If you've been going around saying that you don't find kids attractive and you get called a pedophile, I have a feeling I know why people say that.
I explain that I don't necessarily believe any of the arguments I'm about to make. And I assume that people who watch my videos know that entertaining a thought does not mean that you necessarily agree with a thought. I guess stupid me didn't think it any more necessary than that to explain that this video was more of a thought experiment and shouldn't be taken as a declaration of some kind of stance on anything. You know, like most of my videos.
Didn't you say at the start that it was a commentary on people's behavior on social media? Isn't that why you did it?
In the next section of the video, I explain that there is a difference between people who act on their urges and people who just have those kinds of thoughts. I mention this because even the dictionary...
Wait, Todd Nickerson was your example? Todd is interesting because he's one of those guys who's like, no, I hate that I'm attracted to kids. Oh, we actually really don't want to hurt a child. Okay, we're safe. We just have these feelings that we can't control and don't even want to have. And then you look into more interviews of him and he like, oh, by the way, he made a comic. He writes a comic in which children have superpowers. The superpower of consent. And that's his fantasy. A world where children can consent. And it's like, no, sorry, dude. No, you're real fucking creepy and scary and definitely bad.
I mention this because even the dictionary definition of the word doesn't...
Like, even if I accepted the premise that oh, pedophiles are just totally normal apart from this feeling they don't want to have. Todd has gone beyond that. Even from what I've seen, from what I've looked into, it seems like pedophiles are definitely way more than that, especially if you look at explanations of it being to do with the arrangement of their brain matter, the idea that their attraction is like crossed wires. The impulse to protect children becomes like an impulse to fuck children. So it's a lot more than just a feeling. It's like a compulsion, and they're fucking scary. And the way they behave is real creepy and manipulative in almost every case I've ever heard of. But anyway, let's carry on.
Seem to make much of a distinction, and I think that's kind of fucked up. It's kind of like calling someone a murderer because they fantasize about throwing their coworker out a window. I then go on to clarify that if anything I'm saying can be construed as defending such people, then I'm only defending the ones who have...
Right. If someone genuinely is fixated on causing harm to their coworker, and they volunteer that to you, and you know that, or you know this somehow, I think that is cause for concern. I think if someone has murderous ideation towards you, and you know this somehow, you can actually discriminate against them. That's actually okay. It is different from them actually being a murderer, but it may be appropriate to discriminate against them in some ways, for their thoughts and feelings towards you.
Acted on such thoughts and therefore haven't committed a crime or hurt anyone. Now, I have nothing to say in defense of child molesters. They are weak people and have irreparably damaged another human. I don't see them as any different than rapists. I spend the first minute and a half of the video talking...
Yes, they are rapists, and worse. Specifically because of who the target is. They're like one of the worst kind of rapist. What do you mean?
Talking about the context of everything I'm going to say in it. Conveniently, when people talk about this video, they tend to leave that part out. The next section of the video is best summed up in one sentence. I've heard people say that pedophiles deserve to be tortured and killed. Now, I don't believe in the death sentence, even for mass murderers, much less...
He's trying so hard to be edgy intellectual, man. It hurts.
For a person who has not even committed a crime. Once again, I'm talking about people who haven't committed a crime, but are still treated like criminals. I would hope that anyone who belongs to an enlightened, reasonable society can agree that imprisoning or killing people for thoughts...
Enlightened pedophilia! Dude, please. So, the thing to cut down to and get to quick is, hey, okay, if you have a tenuous reason to accuse someone of being attracted to children, sure. Shouldn't kill them. I'm not pro-death penalty, mainly because I don't trust the state enough to wield that power. I think there are people who deserve the death penalty, though. There's a difference. Differentiating between someone being attracted and having a compulsion to do sexual things with children and someone who has done that, sure, those are two different things. However, I think their feelings alone, if you gain knowledge of that, if they volunteer that information about themselves, or there's clear evidence through their behavior that they harbor these feelings towards children, I think you can discriminate against them. For instance, I think you should be allowed to say, like, no, this person cannot work at a nursery and has to be put on some kind of list to prevent them from being in those kinds of positions, even if they haven't actually done anything to anyone, for example.
They have is generally a bad practice. An argument could be made that people who experience such urges should seek some kind of therapy, but that's not really the point of the video. In the next section, I talk about age of consent. The real reason...
Stop! This is Jeez, it's too much, dude. That's pedophilia covered. Time to talk about age of consent.
The reason I included this topic was because the video was only 3 minutes long, and I needed to appeal to the algorithm. But in the context of the video, the purpose was to point out that some societies have different ideas about age of consent. I'm not saying that I agree with one culture over another. I just feel it's important for people to acknowledge that whatever their culture believes isn't the objective moral authority on it, despite how much everyone loves to think that it is.
You're gonna have to argue that a specific example isn't, though, I think, if you're gonna say this. You can say it being the law doesn't make it morally correct. Sure. That there are different ages of consent in different countries already implies that, though. People disagree. Like, what are you saying here?
The reason that I even bring it up is because there seem to be a lot of people demanding unquestioning respect for the customs of other cultures. There also seem to be a lot of people calling for the death of anyone who might be attracted to someone under 18. And wouldn't you know it, it tends to be the same people.
A lot of people calling for the death of anyone who finds someone under 18 attractive. I don't think there are a lot of people who call for the death of someone who finds a person who is a month away from being 18 attractive.
people saying these
How many is a lot?
two things. Sorry, but you can't have it both ways. At one point, I do talk about the age of consent being tied to the ability to bear children. Once again, this isn't something that I actually believe or want. I'm talking about it from a naturalistic perspective. Animals breed when they're ready to breed. Historically, this is how humans behave too. Once again, I'm just pointing these things out so that people can think about them. If you have...
What does that even mean? And what motive? If you just want people to think about things, why aren't you just saying random facts? If your only reason is so someone can think, why not say, hey, did you know poison dart frogs are only poisonous because they sequester chemicals from their diet in the wild? And if you have one in captivity and feed it food that does not contain such chemicals and toxins, they aren't poisonous anymore. Why aren't you saying that, for instance? Why aren't you saying something completely random?
Haven't noticed, that's kind of what my channel is about. I go on for a bit about...
Analyze everything. Why aren't you analyzing it then? What's the analysis there?
Moral authority, and I don't know, I don't really care. There was a while where I was very anti-authority, but I do know that most laws are there for a reason, even if they don't always make perfect logical sense. People are incomprehensibly stupid and devoid of moral compass. Trust me, I know that. Some people have implied that because I made this video, it must mean that I endorse pedophiles in some way. This is not the case. Everyone loves stories.
Debunked! Debunked! You're gonna say Kothorix is a cringe retard? Could you cite a single source?
I don't condone pedophilia, but what I know about it suggests that the condition is genetic or otherwise brought on by factors outside the person's control.
Where is he getting genetic from? Alan Hughes. There is research that suggests pedophilia, in some pedophiles at least, is a result of their brain makeup, like the white and grey matter. Whichever the connective one is, they have like excess of it. And the theory that comes from that is that it connects like their sex parts of their brains to their protect children instinct part of the brain. And means they like, instead of feeling this protective urge towards children, they want to fuck kids. Which is really fucking spooky. It is just a theory, a pedo theory. But it was in a documentary I watched, which means it must be true.
As a rule, I also don't believe in hating people simply for thoughts they have.
Why not? Depends what the thought is, surely. What if the thought is absolute determination to pin you down and rape your asshole? And they're slowly approaching you. Is it okay to hate them then? and you know they have that thought?
Because of these two things, the absolute hatred and calls for violence or detainment for pedophiles who have never acted on their urges seems entirely unjust to me. Overall, my video wasn't...
What about discrimination in employment, though, for instance? What about that?
There are a few things that I said that could have definitely been worded better. The title itself the biggest among them. So yes, I made a mistake. Several years ago, I was much worse at writing, forming arguments, and gauging other people's reactions than I am now. Although, interestingly enough, I am rarely ever confronted about something I said in the video. Instead, people only ever seem to...
Wait, that video was published 2017. So it did actually come out before that Furry recommended him.
The title. I've even heard people call me stupid for not changing it, when in fact I did change the title to Judging Pedophiles when I realized it was a problem. It was titled Judging Pedophiles for far longer than it was the other title, but no one seems to remember that. I also eventually deleted the video because I thought that's what people wanted, but no one seems to care about that either. All of this leads me to believe that most people didn't even watch the video. In fact, I think all most people saw was a screenshot of the title of the video. At the time, I thought the title was clever. It's in the same vein as those articles with titles like, Genetically Modified Animal-Human Hybrids.
Right.
But then you read it and realize it's just another article about scientists growing human hearts in pigs for transplants. And your dreams of a dominatrix fox waifu are once again crushed. It's not what you expected it to be, but it's still about the same topic, and more importantly, it gets...
I don't believe in discriminating against people who are born with the urge to kill all mankind that they barely contain. As long as they barely contain it, that's good enough for me.
clicks.